Uganda, a country rich with cultural heritage and a diverse population, has over the years recognized the importance of promoting rights of women, considering their significant presence in the population.
We have moved tremendously in the last 40 years, so to say. And you can see it in terms of the activism, the agency at personal level. The younger women today speak up more than we did in my generation. We can't also deny the fact that women have moved from the traditional domestic sphere into the public sphere.
Increasingly over the years, we've seen a change, a shift in terms of policy direction towards more equality, more inclusion of women, more engagement of women in discussions politically, economically, socially, more inclusivity of women in decision-making processes.
The government has shown a very, very positive attitude towards affirming its interest in gender equality in Uganda. If you start with our constitution, it is a very progressive constitution. It recognizes equality and, of course, freedom from discrimination based on sex, gender, and all of that. But there are also very particular articles within the constitution beyond the affirmative action that we all know, that aim towards uplifting women or taking into account the very, very deep patriarchal history or the challenges that women faced.
These policies, together with the significant role of civil society in advocacy, capacity building, legal aid, and research, among others, have provided an upward trajectory in the fight for women and girls' rights in Uganda. Despite the policies, laws, and all interventions by government and non-government organizations, it's important to note that the challenges still exist.
And I think the most interesting part is to look at its implementation. Are women able to leverage from the positive attributes that we have in our laws and policies? You
see examples of we're having very many women in leadership, but we're not seeing the tangible benefits. You're having many girls going to school, but high levels of unemployment. Many don't have the agency and are stay-home moms. They earn money, but they can't make a decision over that money. So all those backlashes are happening. Now the challenge there is when that boundary is overstepped, that is when abuse happens. Abuse, violence, domestic violence comes in, depossession of widows from their land and property rights, sexual violence comes in.
So the key question is, are they able to access justice? Can they access a court of law? No. And why? It is because a number of factors constrain their ability to access justice. One of it is economic. The majority of our women, like we've said, depend on land as a factor of production. But also the majority of our households are still very patriarchal. So all the resources are controlled by men. That means the mere means of just transport to access formal justice is very difficult.
And that's why we have programs, we have projects to try and bridge the gap that government is not able to do in terms of providing access to justice.
These initiatives have aimed at empowering women and girls to pursue justice in environments that serve their needs. One of such initiatives is FATE, an abbreviation to mean From Access to Equality. The Uganda Women Network, Barefoot Law, and Penal Reform International, under the leadership of Advocates Sans Frontières, have come together with the objective of empowering women and girls to pursue justice in an environment that serves their needs.
Each of these partners, including ASF, who leads the consortium, have a lot of specialization in the key areas. So this program is built in such a way that each partner brings on board their specialization that in the end enables us achieve the broad goal. For example, ASF works with a number of community-based mediators who are placed deep within the communities. And these are able to act or they work as our ears and eyes on the ground, and then also supports a number of civil society organizations through grants for them to be able to provide legal aid.
As Uganda Women's Network, issues of access to justice for the last 30 years since UONET was formed has been at the center of our work. We are building on what we have already been doing, improving vulnerability of women and girls in regard to violence against women.
Barefoot Law has been around for just over 10 years now. What we do is provide legal information and awareness to the general public in order to help them resolve their legal problems. Outwards of 90% of the people we survey, and this is the same for both rural and urban areas, have got limited knowledge of the law, have got limited knowledge of how to resolve their legal problems. So we got technology as a way. It is a major tool that we use in order to, number one, reduce the cost of sharing legal information, but then also increase the outcomes that can be gotten through technology.
For PRI, our interest is to use an intersectional approach in gender equality responses. Intersectionality will allow us to look at these particular vulnerabilities of people, of the different groups of women, because not all the women are the same. Experiences would determine they could either worsen your vulnerability or even worsen your abuse and discrimination and violence.
Through various activities and engagements by FATE project partners, there has been momentum created towards empowerment of women and girls to pursue justice in an environment that serves their needs.
So we have several interventions under this project where we try to enhance the knowledge levels of these women. If your right is violated, what next? Where do you go? Who do you run to? And what do you expect at the different service centers that you approach? Basically, our interventions are derived from the cases registered at the advisory centers. When you look at the register book, you'll be able to tell that there are so many succession cases, there are so many land disputes, so that always informs our area of discussion when we reach out to these communities. And then we also realize that our women, looking at the fact that the education levels are always low, that even when they know that they are supposed to go to court, she may not have the courage to run to court. So their immediate options are the social circles within the communities where they live. They will run to their religious leaders, they will run to culture leaders, or even clan leaders. So that's why you realize that among our other interventions, we have the dialogues with the informal justice actors, where we bring religious leaders, culture leaders on board. We also engage district leaders, special councillors, because we realize that these have the mandate to pass laws and ordinances at the district level. So we also do training for such women to empower them to advocate for gender-sensitive policies at district level.
Then the survivors, how do we deal with them when they are in this situation? By providing counseling, by providing legal aid, by providing representation. And ultimately, there are those who are really vulnerable by providing temporal shelter. Then also looking at the economic empowerment aspect. Our studies have shown that over 80% of the women who find themselves in the vicious circle of abuse are economically dependent. So what we do is for those who we've been able to access and who have accessed our services, we want them to go back better by ensuring that you give them some basic skills so that when they go back, they are not going back into the vicious circle of poverty. So economic empowerment has been very instrumental. And then lastly is coordinating with our mother ministry, Ministry of Gender. How do we coordinate, both from the district level, the gender officer, the development officers, and the national level? So with that, you're able to provide a holistic package in terms of access to justice.
The project has enabled the revamping of the GBV advisory centers and shelters, both in Kamuli and Namutumba districts in eastern Uganda. This endeavor has seen increased access to justice for women and girls, as evidenced by the increase in the number of women and men seeking services through advisory centers.
So we have men, women who work in child neglect is like child neglect. Men, women have been left with kids to take care of. They don't have anything. Common cases that we receive is child neglect, land-related cases, conflicts, especially succession-related cases. And our office has been able to receive them. We've used more so a DRA method to handle these cases, and we've been successful. We've settled these cases. We've tried to teach people the law. We've carried out so many sensitizations in communities. We've carried out so many dialogues. We've trained community structures. We've trained even the people for sustainability purposes. We've formed groups, the ones we call survivor support groups. People who have gone through our office and they feel now they are doing better. We get referrals from those very people because they walk out saying, walk to WONET because WONET will support you, because just the woman you've met at office, there were two women. One was the one we had helped before, and the other one is the one who had escorted one. So they are our structures in communities. They keep referring. We also have paralegals that we train that are also our community eyes when we are not there. We have these survivor support groups, as I said. They are the ones who are supporting us to refer most of these cases. But we also work very closely with stakeholders.
Obuzibu bunali nabwo nafuirwa omusaada 27 wabitawo okw'emyaka ngo oba 2 kwesatu awo mulamu wange yajja yalima itaka lyona yalimalako eribampa yakoba ati wano wazira kikyo tewaida na itaka
bana kike kyaffe kwasuni yaffe yakoba nti omusaada gafwa omukazi alina okuba mu itaka lya akumira abaana be kyenakola naawe nebbaluwa namusindika wa DCCD amweta CDO kale yene yagezaako okumusindika ewaimwe nga biremye.
Nze saadi no nebaza ekitongole kya UNANENT ekyanamba ekyandwanirira ebizibu byange nkyebaza ino kuba banamba ino obuzibu obunalina bwo ku itaka lino nga n'okwida ku itaka lino okulimirako nga tibenda nkole ki ndide mu itaka muno nimiremu. Kale nebaza ekitongole ekyo kyandwanirira kyasobola okunkolera ku nsonga dange era esaawa eno namuwangula eitaka ndi likozesa.
Naddala ife muno tukoseibwa ino ng'abakyala bw'ofiirwa omusaada ab'ekika batera okulowooza nti omusaada afiire pega nayo tokaali wa mugaso. Eddembe lya namwandu, eddembe ly'abaana, ebyobusika n'ebyobugayiga eby'omugenzi batera okubyegwanyiza. Kale ebyo tuyamba ku bannaife okutegeera nti balina eddembe lyaibwe, okutegeera amateeka, iteeka likoba ki ku byobusika, ku by'eitaka, ku byobugayiga, n'abaana bavunaanibwa kufuna ki ku byobugayiga bya baba waibwe ng'afiire. Keesi eyindi eriyo omukyala still iba yali amudiza ati nze nga mulese waka ng'atambula butambula aye ng'ayira obwire ayira bwire yakozesa oba kambe ba yakozesanga kaki olwigi yalukola ki yaigulawo olajja okola ati nize tokubanduula twa mediatinga ku byalema twamurefaringa ku WONET still
tuba wano nga tuli kimo nga tuli kulankulana maka gaisu tuzaala baana paka nesaawa enta tulina baana 6 ati ane nasunne mu buzibu amanange bayibu wange yabe nasuna mu kale gondi buti nandeka kuwano yandekere kuwano naira eyayirire nagano balansinga makanga okisanire akabozi kekikulunga katakira aina kuluya nimbonanga niye nasomera nankoba nino kuyita obango gaine byenkola ki ebyenkoba buli muntu ngagezyako omukobako owekyalo kina aye nga takola ki nga tayikirirya ninjabe je madamu Hereni nimwe nyongole ensonga ejo nankoba ati yabe kuki yabe komowune tebakuyambe kubalwane babona babalwane syaki ensonga ejo ibayeta oyibo wange ebetero oyibo wange bane ndatukire bamusomesya kuzena bansomesya ku bakola naye endagano eyo iye yatukire eno yagaino gitukirira nge yakolere ki kaleze nati ano nimba hano omunange najema iyo okola ki okola nge bakobere najemera ki mupaka na buti yajemere.
These women, why they are continuing to suffer violence is they are poor, they are dependent, they are not economically empowered, even as much as they have the knowledge. But since they are not economically empowered, it is still an issue. They will still fall back. This woman will tell you I have 8 kids and I don't have anything I'm doing. And so I've chased up this man to support me. He's not supporting me. So at the end of the day, even if you arrest him, you'll arrest him and so what? She will still go back to the same position.
So as OWONET, one of the services we provide is the sheltering component. The sheltering component is very essential in that when we receive survivors of GBV, as we're working hard to resolve their cases, we usually require that we temporarily house them like somewhere, especially if there's been cases of physical assault. It's very, very important that we provide them with a safe space. So that's where the shelter comes in. It's meant to be temporary, but it's also a place where women can come, women and children can come and stay. And then while they are being sheltered here, of course, we try to cover whatever needs they may have, like whatever essentials you need in your home, we try and cover them here. For instance, we'll provide food 3 meals a day, we'll provide clothing, we'll provide medication in the event that any of them falls sick. We provide psychosocial support, like I said, if it's especially like a GBV case. Most of them have been through a lot of trauma. So as we're working to resolve their case, we're also working hard to also address that aspect, especially when there are kids involved. So yeah, we provide psychosocial support and of course legal aid.
Nafuna obulwaire nga ndwaire nga ndinda musisi yabita nalwala najeyo omulenzi yampa ende eyo okundi dandaba mulenzi oti yandandaba nabona nga embeera yendi bita muti nungi nzira sente njire ku masikani bali kunsindika nga bali kwenda ki sente nga nzira nabitako wa Chairman yandagiriza ati jeri yekitongole kye bakita WOWONET kiyamba kizo kugemera ku jasuka kikwidandalo oluvene mabona omulenzi we ngeye banamukola ki yabanamugemamu olwaja ku WOWONET yo omulenzi yalumuka yo olwalumuka naja WOWONET yali mbi yasigala ngekola ki yaenda bakubenda kuja kuvaamu naye yabawo yakulanga kisoboka nga bansuza bandisa nga buli kimu bashimpa mu bwetaavu tyasula ku ndala tyasiba ku ndala nga batuwake yemala.
They need care and sometimes they could come and they needed shelter. Before they came in, we had no shelter, and I personally used to suffer with these victims because most times I could bring them up to my home. Because now you cannot chase a woman who has been brutally beaten and then you say, you go, we shall see tomorrow. No way. So I used to bring them up to my home. But when they came in and the shelter was put in place, actually, I was relieved.
Nayi n'obutagemagana wagati wange n'omwami wange ensonga enkulu nti yali afunye omukyalo owundi nze yansuulawo bwe yansuulawo yaba ng'osaidi ere gyali kwegamba nga n'abaana takabawa fiizi n'ajja ku poliisi owa mama poliisi byadeema
Then ya mukiseera nafuna mukwano gwange yankoba nti eri abakyala ekitongole ekiyamba abantu kya HUNET yoba okola eki yoba oje bajja bankuumira ku shelter eyo ye baabanga ne bankubiriza nti funa ekyokola mu butuufu era nga n'ekyokola kyali bulungi ino era naviiranga eyo ku shelter naayida mu tawuni naayiya kyendidde nti buli kyotandika n'akatono wafuna ki kubanga naviiranga eyo naida nanoonya emirimu wano eno mu tawuni ng'olwisi nja napakisa mu hotero bampayo 2,000 naida nalabirira abaana ntyo n'omwava bizinesi eno kati ndi bulungi tiri bulungi nate tiri bubino sobola osomesa abaana bange nazimba wendikipangisa.
So HUNET comes in to ease our work in terms of fast tracking cases, response, but also coming with something unique, which is the safe shelter. Because oftentimes the Office of the Child and Family Protection Unit, or call them CFPUs, they have been burdened with these survivors, and they have nowhere to take them. Some of them used to resort to their homes, of course, which is not it is not professionally allowed, but you find that they have been pushed to the wall. But now the shelter comes in to ease that and also provide something which is within the confines of the law, because the Ministry of Gender, they are the direct supervisors of all the safe shelters in the country, and their representative at district level is our office.
Approach has been multi-sectoral, whereby many stakeholders have been brought on board to make sure that we reduce or eliminate GBV, especially among women. We brought in police, we brought in judiciary, we brought in the Amutumba District Law Government in general, especially the Probation Office and the Community Development. We brought in the cultural leaders, the religious leaders, and the women themselves. We also trained, we call them paralegals, I think, they're called paralegals, who are down there, because even HUNET cannot be there all the time at the grassroots.
And there is a very good collaboration with Office Yaibwe and Office RDC, the police and the judiciary. Kubanga we have tulina n'abakyala abali kugobwa mu maka because of those issues I have mentioned, because of gender-based violence, sebalwana bakolaki, and they run these offices. So these people babayamba okuba to counsel them, that is one. Two, okubanga babakuma okuboneka nti babayamba okubalwanirira basobole okwirayo okufuna ebintu byaibwe. And if the battle worsens nga tebabawuliriza, we also intervene, the Office of the RDC. And if it goes beyond, they go to court. Era bajja ku court, their lawyers represent them.
There's been an enhancement of knowledge of community members on legal regimes, justice referral pathways, and GBV through community outreaches and radio talk shows, which has strengthened referral and dispensation of justice for women and girls.
Twenda okwebaza HUNET nti emisomo gy'egiireka etambuza mu bantu n'okusingira irala mu cultural leadership giyambye ino okubanga eye opener, eyambye kali kyokutegera tuwo kino kibaire kibi, kino kibaire kirungi, twatandika okusalawo okupromotinga ekirungi, twabanga tutandika okuvumirira ebibi. Waliko meeting yetwalimu abo ye batweteramu with very many stakeholders, aberosi n'aba polisi batestifying mu meeting eyo nti leero emisango eda GBV tufuna mitono, ekitegeeza nti the impact eri felt omulimu gukoleibwa okusomesa kwabwe kugirewa wansi. Aye nga basinze kuba mu center eyokola ebintu ebyo, it is the cultural institution, kubanga yo buli kantu ekola ki etuuka buli muntu yenna aliko kunika licha yagwamu, alina ekika kyagwamu, alina obuwanga bwagwamu. so bwabeeyo kubanga bwe baamala okutusomesere twayira ku magombola gayira ku miruka dayira ku byalo so baba nti there is that cohesive sensitization ey'abantu.
First of all, we've been together as police and the Uganda Women Network. We've always been together in communities for sensitization and awareness. Because we have a number of people who have been suffering. They've been suffering before. They suffered before because they lack information, especially women. They are not empowered enough. So when we go to the communities together with them, at least it helps. When they hear a word or two, it can help them to know where they can go to access justice. Even after that, where they see there is a need for legal representation, they've always been there. Free legal representation to the marginalized, those who cannot support themselves economically, financially. At least we've been referring. Where we don't go together in communities, we refer cases of people who need legal representation.
In the absence of a nationwide public scheme, legal aid is delivered by CSOs. Barefoot Law is at the forefront of innovations in access to justice, making access to justice and law readily available to vulnerable communities. Through the innovative use of digital technologies, it empowers people to develop legal solutions to their problems.
As we know, the legal information problem is big. The vast majority of people, when we do surveys, we find out outwards of 90% of the people we survey, and this is the same for both rural and urban areas, have got limited knowledge of the law, have got limited knowledge of how to resolve their legal problems. Most of them, when a legal challenge arises, will not take action. So the key thing for us was, how do we get this information out there? Now, there are many ways we can get legal information out there. The cheapest of them is using technology. So for example, it is much cheaper for me to call you on phone if you're in Soroti, as opposed to going on a bus. I go all the way to Soroti and I meet you. So we got technology as a way. It is a major tool that we use in order to, number one, reduce the cost of sharing legal information, but then also increase the outcomes that can be gotten through technology. So although talking to you on the phone would help, it is still not the same as going to meet you. So what we have done is we've come up with a series of systems that, when we put them together, provide something more of a holistic service. So not only do we have the ability for you to call us, you can also interact with us on a video platform through a system that we've built. And so this is where that system comes in. It allows us to not only reach people with technology, but reach them in a much closer, more direct way.
Drawing from a successful pilot implemented with ASF in Acholi, BFL developed digital legal aid services for women victims of GBV.
Barefoot Law, being an organization that is leveraging technology, we bring provision of a technological solution and an operational system that enables video and audio consultations with a lawyer, available on a laptop, housed and present in our offices, both in Kampala and at our rural grassroots offices, available at partner offices. This system and operational platform is meant to enable increased empowerment of women to access legal information, guidance to act on their justice needs.
Barefoot Law, actually, they have an online application where we directly refer. So we do conference them, we do video call them, and they are able to directly be given an advice and be referred to another institution if we've not referred them.
Essentially, what happens with this consultation on a digital platform is, first and foremost, a person approaches a lawyer, maybe at Barefoot Law, maybe at a partner's office, and they present themselves as people who need legal guidance or legal information. This then can prompt the person to have an initial interaction with them to diagnose whether they have a legal problem or a social problem. Under the FATE project, which is from Access to Equality, where we convene with ASF, Penal Reform International and UONET, we have various capacities as partners. Ours here at Barefoot is general legal advisory provided using the system to guide people and empower women specifically. However, other partners are more capable and empowered to deal with maybe representation before court.
That because here in Kamuli District I'm like one lawyer, so in the event that maybe a client comes in and I'm either like at court or I'm unavailable to physically see them, instead of giving them a later appointment, they can we can get them an appointment with a Barefoot lawyer there and then. And then of course the good thing about it is that when you're making that appointment, they give you options. You're able to choose someone who speaks the local language, someone who can interact with the client without any issues.
Significantly, there's been increased use of digital platforms by beneficiaries due to familiarization with the technology. There's been an overflow in reach even beyond the geographical project boundaries.
We've seen the number, increasing through the different entry points that we have. The cases that are coming through from UONET, so many women are accessing mediation services. The cases that are reported on the digital platform are on the increase, and they're actually on the increase far and beyond even the project coverage, the project districts. In that, in the recent expansion, we had actually to write to the donor to expand on the project district. So you find that now we have districts like Kole who have been, brought on board because of that far reach of the services. And then we have a reporting tool, we call it Kobo. It's an online tool. Through that reporting system, we are also able to see the numbers of women reporting cases increasing every month.
Penal Reform International has made gender sensitivity a key component of their work.
Our niche is on women behind bars. So what is PRI doing? We are using a holistic approach to support the women behind bars. Women behind bars have suffered discrimination, trauma. There are many who are suffering from psychosocial challenges, access to justice issues in terms of the criminality, but also in terms of the economic aspects. As you've seen or you will learn, we've found women, most of them who enter into prison, they lose their homes, they lose their children, they lose their families, they are displaced, they become displaced persons. So a woman's needs from the time of entering the system are different, and that is what PRI is looking at. So we offer legal representation to the women, that is court representation. We do provide medical assistance, minimal. We do support in rehabilitation. We do have activities that support their rehabilitation, and we do have activities that support their social reintegration. We have entrepreneurship skills training, and then we have a small grant that we give the women.
PRI has led capacity building engagements with JLOs to foster positive institutional reform. This endeavor has seen enhanced rehabilitation and reintegration of female offenders.
Nali mufumbo baze yafa oluvannyuma lw'abaze okufa bansiba okumala ebbanga lya myaka 2.5. Obulamu mwikomera tibwali bwa bulungi kubanga bw'edya ikomera. Ate era zene engeri gye nalindesa abaana enuma famire. Ng'ozira bw'okoba muntu n'omutakupureesa otiina endabu yandi. Ekintu kye neesiimizaamu mbu lwakuba bayida bayigulawo omusomo. Baatusomesa engeri gy'oteeka okweramu. Baatusomesa ku bizinensi. Bayida twafuna omukisa baatusindike baga abantu baife transport bayida baatukyalira. Poliisi oyenda abona mwana baamuleeta. Era nali musanufu ino kubanga ebbanga lye baali bansibye. Nali tibonanga ku baana bange. Naddala abato kuba oyo omuto namulekanga muto ino bwe twalwala bayida batwidandaba nze bankebera kubanga nabayinonula ekirwaire ekyanuma bankebera bakoba ati olina alagi n'alusa n'abayinonula alusa bandeetera sirapu ne kapisozi daako kakati bwe twafuluma batukoba toddayo kukuza musango tulayo ddayo okole ebibyo olaba awantu nga obona awantu nga tosobolawo oli waidemba okufuna awantu wona atyama wawulira ki kuba buli lwofuna omuntu akunigiriza ino akuleetera okola ekibi ate tetwenda mwire muki buli lwosoniga ebintu ebisinga bungi abantu abandi mwizize emisango lwa busungu mukendeeza obusungu
bwava mu ikomera yeira yewuwe deni bwatuuka eyo obulamu tibwamubeera bulungi okusinziira kuba nti abantu b'omusaada baali nga balimu kujjaamu naye kati obulamu we butaba bulungi yankubira esimu namukoba nti kizira buzibu idde eno tusobole okujoininga ki obulamu kubanga alina abaana beetagisa okulya beetaaga okusoma beetaaga obuyambi ng'abaana bw'okitegeera.
So far Bukwanwa has a good lady. She has nothing. She's cooperative to the society. Even when I look here at home here, she works at like a woman of a home. Even now she's helping this one to look after what this one have got. Yes.
Because of our intervention, we've prevented many women from entering prison. We have registered over 60% women who have been released in short periods of time compared to what it was before the project started. Because of this, women, their attitudes in life, we've kind of restored hope among the women that we work with who had lost it. I'll use a word that they use. They felt rejected by everybody, family, communities. So we have restored that hope among these women. This is, I think this is definitely attributed to this project. The other thing is that we have reunited families.
This program is built in such a way that each partner brings on board their specialization that in the end enables us achieve the broad goal. For example, ASF works with a number of community-based mediators who are placed deep within the communities. And these are able to act or they work as our ears and eyes on the ground. So to that extent, they are the very first point of contact for women who might feel their rights could have been violated or just have, questions that they want clarity about.
I asked first my mother, I want to go to police because my husband has refused to feed me with the child and now suffering. Then we went to police. Then we see that officer. Then we went there. Then they helped me. I tell them all my problems. Then they call, I give them to his number. They called him. When he came, he accepted everything that they told him to provide for me. ASF helped me in my problems. And I have a stress, what he advised me when they advised my man to provide for me what I lack. Then they even the man to provide that thing that he promised. I'm not very happy.
Normally with the mediations, we don't take sides like we are much on survivor, perpetrator. We hear from both of them. Then we have to guide based on what comes out of their views. Like if it is the woman who is in the wrong side, we talk to that woman at least to style up with maybe her personal characters. contributing to such kind of violence. If it is a man, we also make him accountable of his actions.
Before SF came, in our communities, you find people are fighting. It was a goal. You find people are fighting, nobody to rescue, nobody to report, nobody to give advice before SF come to help these people in the communities. So people are violent, so you cannot say a word. Once you say a word, those people will come and fight you also. So when SF come in, so now people are getting peace. They are making peace to each other. They know where to report the case, how to follow, how to handle the cases. Just through the knowledge that SF has given them, even the cultural leaders, and then immediately show us go on. Yeah.
Overall, through this FATE project, we have achieved a pool of community-based mediators and their coaches who are first entry points for the vulnerable women on their journey to access justice. These have successfully conducted mediations and done referrals.
At percentage level, I can say that we are at about 70%. We have a series of success stories that the mediators have conducted in. I'm actually happy to report that the work that the mediators have been doing in the communities has created a positive response from the community. Of all the mediation cases that the mediators have handled, at a scale of 10, at least 8 of these have been successful, and I believe that is a great achievement. 2 may not have been successful and are referrals, or we end up filing them in court, but at least at 8 out of 10, that is really a good output from the community and from the mediators. So out of the training and the coaching that I give them and the results that they give us, I believe that is really a positive response.
In 2022 alone, they handled 414 cases, reaching 825 beneficiaries, 411 females, 414 males. 66% of these cases were successfully mediated upon and the matter resolved. 23% were referred to other entities like the police, community development officers, local council courts, and legal aid clinics. 6% are still ongoing and only 2% failed mediation.
What comes to my attention is the number of women that, for example, have accessed justice within prisons. I think that in it is tremendous. A number of them had been in detention for quite some time. But also the number of women who have been legally empowered to access justice. Yes, I think for that we also see as an impact that so far the project has had.
We are seeing a lot more of integration of issues of violence against women in district operations. It's no longer being seen as an NGO thing, but also it shows that this work can be sustained, because we'll end up using our current institutions, government institutions, to sustain the work, because projects come and end.
The project operates a model that we call a community of practice. And this community of practice gathers practitioners within every district that we work or region. So it brings stakeholders, including the government or the state stakeholders, the Office of the Community Development Officer. It brings on board civil society organization, legal aid service providers, the JLOS actors. It also brings them on board. So bringing all of these actors into one room for them to be able to dialogue. What are the key justice issues that affect women within this district or within this region? And I think based on that, we have had real tangible output from these meetings, discussing the key challenges, but also being able to act on those challenges at the end of the day.
Our intervention of the FATE program, from access to equality, is one to test the waters, that when we have a holistic intervention to improve access to justice for citizens, what results do we see? The results we see are one, trust, we see dignity, and we see productivity. The reverse is equally true. That where there is no trust, where there are no interventions to improve the quality of life, especially through access to justice, we see a life of indignified people, we see a life of apathy, and we see underdevelopment from the family to the national level. The people are central in the development of any nation. And these people are the majority, who in this case are the women and girls who are over 51%, are the women and girls who live in the rural areas, over 70%, are the women and girls who contribute to the nation in terms of the agriculture production of over 70%. But above all, for all the women and men, girls and boys in this country, they deserve the dignity of being human beings.
The journey towards justice for women in Uganda continues, but these success stories remind us of the power of collective action, resilience, and determination. By supporting women's empowerment and advocating for gender equality, Uganda is moving closer to a future where justice is accessible to all, as witnessed in its commitment to empower women with policy instruments such as Uganda Vision 2040 in the Third National Development Plan, NDP3. Together, we can break down barriers and create a just and equal society for all.